Our coastlines are under some serious pressure. But what if there was a technology designed to tackle the problem right where it starts? Well, today, we're diving into something called Project Pearl. It's a brand new system that's basically designed to be a filter for our most critical waterways. So let's get into it.
To really get our heads around the problem, let's start with a big question. What if we could install a kidney for a massive body of water, like the Chesapeake Bay? A system that could just filter out the nastiest pollutants before they cause any real permanent damage. It sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? But it really gets to the heart of what we desperately need.
But here's the twist. The biggest threat we're actually up against in these waters, it's not some giant oil slick or a pile of trash that you can easily spot. Nope. The real danger is microscopic. It's sneaky, and it is hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, we are talking about microplastics. These are those teeny tiny plastic particles, less than 5 millimeters across. But the most important thing to understand about them is this analogy. They act like little, mobile, toxic sponges. They just float around, soaking up all the other nasty stuff.
And just how much do they soak up? Well, get this. Pollutants like PFAS, heavy metals, all that junk, it can be up to 1,000 times more concentrated on the surface of a single microplastic than in the water around it. They're basically little poison delivery systems, spreading concentrated toxins all through the ecosystem.
So, where do these little toxic sponges do the most damage? That brings us to our first big topic, the shoreline's hidden danger. We really need to unpack why the water's edge is such a critical and vulnerable zone.
Think about it. That last 50 meters of water, right before you get to the open bay, that's where everything collides. It's a total bottleneck. Microplastics get trapped there by the tides. Runoff pollution is at its absolute worst. This little strip of water is what the sides of underwater grasses can even get enough sunlight to grow. It's where baby oysters have to survive. It is, quite literally, the last line of defense.
And the results of all that concentrated stress, well, it's pretty grim. It means that a lot of our best efforts to restore these incredible habitats, they're failing. We can plant all the new oysters or seagrass we want, but if the water they're supposed to live in is just fundamentally toxic, they don't stand a chance. The very foundation is broken.
So, what if you could actually fix that broken foundation? Well, that is the perfect lead-in to our next section, where we introduce Project Pearl. And it's not just described as a filter, they call it an aquatic life improvement platform.
So PEARL is actually an acronym. It stands for Proactive Engineering for Aquatic Rehabilitation and Legacy. And its mission is simple but powerful: to be a modular platform that yanks out not just the microplastics, but all those nasty contaminants hitching a ride on them. And crucially, it does this right at the shoreline, that critical high-stress zone we were just talking about.
And one of the best parts is its flexibility. It can be deployed in two main ways. First, you've got a mobile version that's mounted on a vessel. You can move it around to different hotspots in salty, tidal areas. Or it can be a fixed, permanent system right at a dock, which is perfect for targeting a specific source of pollution, like a stormwater pipe.
All right, so how does this thing actually get the job done? Let's pop the hood and look at the mechanics of Pearl's multi-stage filtration process.
The whole system works like what they call a treatment train, and it's got 4 key stops. First, it uses a screen to physically pull out the microplastics. Next, it uses special materials to absorb all the excess nutrients. The third step adds a really cool biological polish. And finally, it's constantly monitoring the results every step of the way.
And the results? They are seriously impressive. Pearl can remove over 90% of microplastics bigger than 50 microns. It's also grabbing between 90 and 99% of those problem nutrients, nitrates and phosphates. And if you add an optional stage, it can even take out 95 to 99% of those super toxic PFAS chemicals. Wow.
Okay, now this is one of my favorite parts. That biological polish I mentioned, it can actually be a living filter made of oysters. So after all the mechanical and chemical cleaning, the water flows through these oysters, and they use their incredible natural filtration power to give it one last deep clean. It's just a brilliant marriage of technology and nature.
And this slide just lays it all out, the before and after. You go from this murky, toxic soup that's stressing out all the aquatic life to clear, healthy water where restoration projects can actually work. It's all about creating the right conditions so nature can bounce back.
But hold on, Pearl isn't just about cleaning water. It's also about gathering intelligence. And this brings us to its really innovative business model, where treatment meets intelligence.
I absolutely love this quote from the source material. Pearl is not just treatment, it is environmental intelligence. This just perfectly captures the whole idea. The value isn't just in what the system removes from the water, it's in what it learns while it's doing it.
So how does it learn? Well, every single Pearl unit has 8 different data collection points built right into it. It's measuring water quality when it comes in, after each stage of the filter, and as it goes out. This basically turns every single unit into a real-time, high-frequency water quality monitoring station.
And this genius design creates 2 really powerful ways to generate revenue. First, you have the treatment services themselves, helping a city clean up its stormwater or tackling a PFAS spill. But second, you can actually sell the data it collects as a service to regulators, scientists, you name it, anyone who needs that kind of super local real-time data.
So, the big question is, how does all this stack up against what we're already doing? Let's take a look at Pearl's competitive edge when you put it side by side with the existing solutions out there.
Okay, so here we're comparing PRL to the usual suspects for stormwater, things like bioretention ponds or man-made wetlands. And honestly, the numbers just speak for themselves. You can see right there in the table, PRL's removal rates for nitrogen and phosphorus are just way, way higher. And on top of that, it's the only one that gives you real-time data, and it takes up hardly any land.
And this bar chart just makes that difference impossible to ignore. I mean, look at that. When you're talking about removing nitrogen, Pure is playing in a totally different league than the alternatives. It's a quantum leap forward in effectiveness.
So, let's bring it all home. The really crucial point here is this. Pearl isn't trying to replace things like oyster reefs or living shorelines. Instead, think of it as ecological preconditioning. It's the tool that creates that clean water baseline, that solid foundation, that finally allows all those other amazing natural restoration projects to work.
And Matt leaves us with one final big question to chew on. With our shorelines facing more and more stress every single day, could these intelligent, data-rich, super-targeted filters like Pearl, could they be the missing key we've been searching for to finally unlock a truly large-scale ecosystem recovery?